Welcome to the webinar of Mobility Launchpad. Today we discuss and learn about economical balance for startups, so how to get your startup funded and get it growing, while also not forgetting all the necessary legal things that should be in place. In our series of 3 Mobility Launchpad events now in October, this is the second one of those 3, and maybe the one with the most heavy and important stuff. So if you're thinking of probably founding a startup or you're running one, you're in the right place now. Third event is in 2 weeks from now, 30th of October, and that focuses on self-confidence and networks. So keep that in mind as well. My name is Raimo Tengvall. I'm project manager at Forum Virium Helsinki, Helsinki city-owned innovation company. And I'm running a project called Mobility Launchpad, which helps to create business from smart mobility. And it's funded by European Regional Development Fund and Helsinki-Uusimaa Regional Council. And it focuses on startups and growth-minded SME companies from Helsinki-Uusimaa region. And the project is also known as Jätkäsaari Smart Mobility, which means that the area of Jätkäsaari and Ruoholahti here in Helsinki can be used for like a real-world test facility for new mobility solutions, but also elsewhere in Helsinki is possible. We had this summer call boats, on-demand electric boat in eastern Helsinki. So that's quite a lot of variety of things we do in this project. Project partner here is Metropolia University of Applied Sciences, and Anna-Stina Tähkävuori from there has been also the main organizer of this event, together with Heidi Heinonen from Forum Virium Helsinki and Carbon Neutral Drone Service Solutions in Southern Finland project. And we're also part of bigger testbed, Jätkäsaari Mobility Lab, which is coordinated by the city of Helsinki. And the place we are now here with the speakers, we have 4 speakers here live as well in this place. It's called Urban 3, and this is a new ecosystem place for urban ecosystems, and it's an event and showroom space also here at Maria 01 Startup Campus. And even though the background in this project is for mobility, we're not forcing you to do business only on mobility field. And so if you're the things we're hearing today, they are valid for other startups too. But of course, if you're planning to do something on mobility, I hope you'll contact us and we can discuss more and how we can help you. And in this project, which is publicly funded, all our help is for free to you. And practical things for this webinar. This webinar is recorded, and you can watch it later on YouTube as well. And the presentations are shared afterwards with you who are now live here attending. And we'll have an idea wall where you can ask questions and share your thoughts during the presentations. And we'll discuss each topic right after each presentation. And the link to the idea wall, you can find it in the same email as you did. Find the link to this stream and also the video description in YouTube. You can find it there. So please go to the idea wall because that's the place for live interaction here now today. But now let's go to into today's speakers. Touko Kontro is startup business advisor at Nyuko Helsinki, and the topic is how to get your startup funded. And Touko is both business advisor in his daily work, but also an angel investor that has invested in several startups during past 10 years. And his background also includes IT consulting and working in his own company, but also in a couple of bigger corporations. So, but when it comes to startups, Touko really knows his this topic thoroughly. And a couple of figures I quite liked. Touko has analyzed 5,700 startups as an investor, 5,700 analyses, and also coached himself 600 at Nyuko Helsinki. So with that experience, I'm really pleased to welcome Touko Kontro.
Thank you for your nice introduction. I don't have to introduce myself even further. So, topic is how to get your startup funded, which actually works for pretty much every startup in every phase. but concentrates more on the very early start. What we do in Yugo, we help startups and all kind of beginning companies, and most of them are obviously traditional businesses like florists, restaurants, barbershops, any kind of service business which is required in a city. But then is the scalable, global, with very technology or disruption-oriented companies with startups. And we have the section just for startups in different fields. I'm sort of a generalist guy there who knows most about funding and also a little bit about platform business, which are like in many fields, but have their own business logic of chicken egg problems, customers who are also products and so on. Before we get started, we could see what is different in startups. So it's high risk, high growth, and there are nice different kind of conceptual analysis type of definitions in Wikipedia or in literature. But idea is that it's a team which builds tech which fits the market. Compared to traditional business, it's business idea, business plan, and after that you go to a bank and get the loan and start your business. In startup, you see some of the technological advantage which you would utilize in some market, and then you try to gather a team to actually accomplish that idea. What makes the startup then stand out from the other startups? It hits this sweet spot of commitment, structure, scalability, timing, growth ambition, and market opportunity. So everything else is relatively easy except the market timing. If the market timing would be easy, then every startup would be successful, every investment would be successful, but you never know if you are right on time or ahead of your time or too late in your market. The most common fail of startups is the team commitment, that the team tries to do something, but there's not enough resilience and team spirit to actually get to the goal. Like they give up too early. That's the 50% of the fails in startups, is that the team just quits. Then why I'm talking about this, what is a good startup and what makes a good startup, instead of like just like how to make your application for funding? Because it's relatively easy to find funding for a fundable startup and next to impossible to find funding for a non-fundable startup. So these stories that, yeah, I only had a pitch deck and I got 7 million are true, but they are only true if you are like experienced game programmer who has built an experienced game team and has been successful for at least in 2 consecutive games before. Then you can raise 7 million with your slides. If you want to raise more, then one of your founders has to be a venture capitalist by themselves, as in Supercell. So how to make your startup fundable then? Only 3 things. Sounds easy. You build a team, as mentioned. You build a product with your team, which then fits the market, which is the difficult thing. So what kind of team? Well, team which is ready for everything. It has to be a smart team, that they can plan very smart actions on how to get to their goals. But it also has to be quick team and agile team to change those plans when things didn't go as planned. So planning is 1%. It's the first percent you do. It feels like the plan is very critical in the beginning phase, but then 99% of the success is the execution. Team has to be good in executing things. What's then a product? You validate very early. When you have some kind of idea of the product which you can disguise to look like a product, you go to customers and try to sell it. If they buy it, it becomes a product. So product is something you have built for your customers, which you can show to your not only customers, but also your investors. If you don't have a product, you have prototypes or tinkering or plans, but no business. There's nothing to invest in if there's no return on investment. So when you have a product, the investor sees that, okay, here's a team which built a product. You are capable of building something. So if you don't, then you have slides. Would you invest 30,000 in somebody's slides? I wouldn't. Then the market fit. There are two different kind of markets, blue oceans and red oceans. Blue ocean means that nobody has ever been into that market. It's good market in that sense that there's no competition. It's bad market in that sense that you have to prove that the market exists. Usually blue oceans are big enough and scalable, but validation is difficult. Well, then in red oceans, it means that there is already like sea full of fish, but it also means that there's existing market. So you are disrupting an existing market, replacing something which is already there in the market. So then these questions, is it big enough niche? Is it scalable enough? And can you validate your new idea there? Becomes critical. But one advantage you get from blue ocean strategy is that you are news. You are building something new, so you are also getting a lot of media coverage for your new thing. And well, media coverage is like money. So it's investment in your company, and you get it if you are news. Then we can go to actual funding. As you see, like from the slide, the startup path looks like it's this kind of hockey stick extended curve. In real life, it's more like going somewhere. But anyway, it tries to progress all the time. And in different phases, you use different funding options. The first money you invest is your own, or your dad's, or your sister's, or somebody who really trusts you because nobody else is going to trust you than somebody really close. Or you have time to do study or work and then build your company on the side when you can build something credible for some investor before you start your company. Why do you need money in the beginning phase? It's because in Finland there's Tempo project, which is your first startup money, and it requires 30K of your own cash to be invested in the company, just to show that you are serious and you are really a startup for the government. You can borrow the 30K from bank, or you can maybe use that with credit card if you have big enough credit card or so on. It's anyway small money which you can lose even if your company doesn't succeed. It's like less than average new car loan. So people can survive with that kind of loans. Then there's, like you see, there's the valley when you don't make any money. You just spend money to build your product and team. Then you get revenue. It turns upwards. When you start getting revenue, then the private investors get interested. So then you can go and pitch to Fiban for angels, or you can start talking with VCs. And their first question is like how much MRR, so monthly recurring revenue, you are generating. If it's more than zero, but less than any significant amount, they usually say that come back a little bit later. If it's less than zero, then if you're spending just money, not earning anything, they say that, well, please create the business first, then come to talk to us. But if you generate, let's say, 1,000 euro in a month, then it's already a walk in the park to go to risk investors to say that, hey, we have validated this business, now we are going to scale, we need your money to do it. Business Finland then doubles with friendly loan your private investment after you have generated revenue. These other things I mentioned is EU has this Horizon instrument where it's an SME part, instruments 1 and 2, and 1 is 50K, 2 is few million. The tricky part is that it's a lottery. You don't know if you are successful or not in advance. Nobody knows because it depends on like who reads your application of the so-called volunteer experts. Anyway, if you really think that you are capable of getting the phase 2, you just have to participate in the lottery enough times to make sure that you get the phase 1. If you don't get the phase 1, it's very difficult to get the phase 2. Then I mentioned VCs, venture capitalists. Their turn is usually after the angel rounds, but some VCs are micro VCs which already start in the same phase as business angels. IPO is there as funding option. The purpose of IPO is not to make an exit, it's to make your company liquid, so do an exit, but also raise capital for it from much larger crowd than in crowdfunding platforms or in private equity. Also makes your company public, which is nice bonus you get from investment round. Like your customer in China can see you in Nasdaq and check your balances and so on. So IPO is not so much about exit as it is about marketing, especially in B2B business. So instead of thinking about like when I'm ready for exit in IPO, you should think about when I'm ready for IPO to utilize that enormous chance of marketing in B2B. Then if you take our point of view in startups from Newcom, that -2 is some person with an idea, -1 is something who has formed a team, like maybe written a shareholder agreement and business plan, some kind of maybe something, also some kind of agreement with the customer or something. Then it's possible to get startup grant before founding your company, and the tempo funding when you have founded your company. If you are doing B2C products, product crowdfunding is available in really early stage. Like right after tempo, you can start publishing your product and marketing it in crowdfunding platforms. Works very well if you plan it well and do it well. So product crowdfunding comes first, equity crowdfunding comes a little bit later. And then, well, let's say you have managed to generate revenue in some mean or another, then it's time for seed round. So you become sort of like phase little bit over 0. So you have an existing company, you are raising money for it, and you are doing some little business with it. So then micro VCs are your first option if you can fit into their investment strategy. It's very easy case if you are in VC's investment strategy because they are looking for you. They have promised their investors that we are going to invest in this kind of companies with this kind of strategy. And if you are something that fits that strategy, it's like easy for them if you contact them. Like, oh, here is one target for us without even looking. So if you are a match, it's easy. If you're not a match, it's waste of either or both parties' time because they are not going to invest in something they haven't promised their investors. Well, if there's no micro VC that fits you, then no, don't worry. There's still like hundreds of business angels who make investments in startup companies every year. So for example, last year there was about 470 investments by business angels to different companies. So that's 470 investment rounds done. So it's quite easy to get there when you actually have built your startup. Well, then as you see, like it's not that raising scale from 0 to 1. Usually after seed round, you try something, it fails, you try something else, it fails, and then you do another seed round. No problem. That still works pretty much the same way as the first seed round. If the things go really well, you can apply for this Young Innovative Companies program with Business Finland, which is then about 1.25 million in 3 different phases, support and loan system, which is matched by your revenue or your investments. And then money from Finland runs out you start working with international VCs and build even a bigger company at that phase. What companies usually in Finland do in this phase, that they sell the company with some little millions. Well, good for the founders, not very ambitious, not very scalable. Like you can do a few million with any business. You don't have to found a startup for that. So using VCs or IPO in this stage when you really need to scale internationally is usually an option. There's like very good examples in Finland right now, like of companies like Varjo or Volt or like many more who have raised nice VC rounds for global reach. So VCs are not your friends, they are professionals who invest money. So you have to remember that with VCs you are in exit business. So they need to get rid of your the company in 3, 4, 5 or at least 6 years, depending on their phase. These late stage VCs usually like that the fact that 3 years to exit is good, 4 is okay and 5 is failure already. So exit plan is quite critical at that stage. If you plan to grow your company forever, then you have to think about IPO instead or some kind of family office setting. A little bit about the public funding in Finland. Business Finland has 2 tools for beginning startups. They are Tempo and then for every company innovation voucher, and for a little bit further then Business Finland Explorer for different sources. So I talk a little bit more about Tempo later, but R&D is used to match seed rounds, and Young Innovative Companies is a program I mentioned to raise your company's valuation for international VCs before you go to that market. So this innovation voucher is a specific tool for buying some kind of services for internationalization for any company. You don't have to be a startup or a new company to get that. You just need to buy some services to help your international growth at some stage. And it's 80% support, so you pay 1,000 yourself, you get 4,000 voucher to buy 5,000 worth of internationalization services. Explorer family is worth checking out. It's for specific needs, like there's international talent support. If you bring an international expert to Finland, there's like support for doing really big event booths together with other companies and other kind of like specific business case support. How do you get started? You go to their webpage, fill out their form, and that's it. Don't visit them, don't call them, just go there and fill out the form. They basically ask like, are you a startup or not? So you copy your business plan or pitch deck to their webpage and leave your credentials. Pretty straightforward process. Then they call you back and set up a meeting. Pretty easy that way. It's a small team. They handle over 1,000 applications a year, so they need to be effective. They don't return your calls or mails or open their door. They call you back and set up a meeting. Then what is the Tempo funding for? Officially testing your concept, investigating markets. If you put that kind of things to your application, they probably help. Intended for startups, which means that less than 5-year-old companies have this scalable global business idea and a team of 2 people, 2 full-time people together. So it doesn't have to be 2 full-time, it can be 1 full-time business developer and then half a coder and half a growth hacker, together 2, but total of 2, and 1 whole business developer. And well, the role of the business developer is to validate the business, sell it to customers, try to find traction, and also help the product development to develop the product market fit to better. So, and also there's this nice phenomenon that it's a public funding instrument. So if you apply now, the criteria are really tight. You probably have to be already in seed stage to get it. And if you wait until January, then it's new budget. Then the criteria is loose because they have to spend all the money. So at the end of the year, they're running out of money. The criteria gets tighter. In the beginning of the year, they are afraid that they can't spend everything, so the criteria is easier. So if you compare, like this company got Tempo and I didn't, and I was further, it might be that the other one was in January and other one in December. And it's 50K grant. It's 70% of the project. So every Tempo project is 67K exactly. So 17K of your own money and 50K grant. And the idea of the project is that you divide the 67K into 3 or 4 work packages, which you then can spend pretty much to those projects pretty loosely. There are some kind of other limits, like salaries can't be over 3K to founders, and also there's limits on how much outsourcing or AdWords or services you can buy with the money. Why there's also the 13K extra in 30K, it's that life doesn't end in Tempo project. Your company has to still survive after the Tempo, and also that it's freedom a little bit more. Like, it's not project money, so you can spend it all to AdWords if you think that it's useful, or all to outsourcing if you think that it's useful, and so on. So it's not a good idea to tie all your resources into one project. But yeah, limits were 2 people, 30K shareholder agreement, and founded company. Has to be a startup. Then last thing, and this is sort of like my own thing. I could talk forever about this, but it's how investors see startups. So the startup and all the people, customers, see them through the product and so on, which I said, you have to build the product. Then what the investor sees is the team. They try to think about, is the team capable of scaling the business and actually doing the hard work of creating a global success story. So is there enough willpower? Is there enough stamina, resilience in the team? Are they good friends with each other so that they can support them through difficult things? How is the chemistry? How is the diversity? What's the learning speed? What's the track record? And also, like, is there enough trust? You are trusting some people with a lot of money. Can you trust them that they do the things they promise to do with the money? So if most business is about trust, investing into startup is even more so. So, well, you are sort of accounted for what you promise to investors. They remember and they like to remind you. Then what's the market opportunity? Like, what kind of niche, what kind of competition, what kind of business model you have, what kind of monetization model you have, what kind of moat you might have, what kind of IPR you have. So it's opportunity and competition combined, in a sense. So then there's this, what's the product? Like, start with why type of thing. Why did you create the solution? Like, whose problem, whose pain point, whose problem you are solving? How do you contact the party who has the problem? Do they agree that this solution works? Can you scale your solution? And like, is the technology like hard to manufacture or easy to buy from shop? Is there a competitive edge in that, or is there a competitive edge in that it's mass produced already, which you apply in new way? But it's basically, if you have something which is easy to copy, investors are hesitant because, well, then it's not, it's like race to the top or race to the bottom, probably, because everybody else is going to start copying. Copycat businesses can be successful. For example, Bonusway is a copycat. There have been many successful or not successful stories somewhere else, but they just thought that they do it a little bit better in somewhere where it wasn't been done before, and they have been pretty successful in that. So it doesn't have to be unique idea if you have like brilliant execution. And that's what investors try to look for, like, is it brilliant execution? Easiest way to show that is that, hey, we scaled from 0 to 10,000 revenue in 1 month. Okay, well, sounds plausible. Sounds something that I want to invest in. So show your analytics, show your data, show your numbers, show that what you have accomplished. Then it's like leverage, like, did you utilize Business Finland grants or not? If not, you have to first answer, like, why didn't you use them? Like, it's free money, why didn't you use it? Future funding rounds, they dictate on the dilution part. Like, okay, this round valuation is 1 million, with 40,000 I get 4%, okay, great. Then there's going to be 5 rounds more, it goes to 3.5%, 3.2%, 2.8%. Okay, in IPO stage I have 2.1%. Okay, sounds still good. I have to invest at least 40% to get to 2% in IPO stage. So future funding plans, if they are more like we do one investment round and then we borrow some money and then we go to young innovative companies program and then do a small round and then a bigger round, is like less rounds is always less dilution. It's more attractive to other investors. The thing which is usually sort of semi-invisible to you also could be a good lead from if you can do your homework, is that do you add value to investors' other portfolio companies? Can you do business together with those other, like, let's say if the portfolio company is a lot about SaaS companies and your company does SaaS lead generation. Well, it could be a good fit to that investor because you could already start selling to those other portfolio companies. And or if you are another SaaS company, you might be able to share some kind of lead register already with the other companies. So there's a lot of synergy possibilities with startups who have same investors involved. Well, then it's like basically they try to evaluate your track or your CV, like your credibility in your business. So what kind of marketing results you have got, sales results, funding results, product development results. Like, there has to be a diverse team with different skills, but track record always helps you to land investment. So if you are doing something for the first time and you don't have a track record, you have to create it. You have to actually prove that you can do something to get that hurdle out of the way. Investors want to trust you, but they also want to have some kind of ground reason why they trust you. Like, doing something again bigger is much easier than doing something for the first time. How much cash you have left, that is something they always think. If you are already running out of money and bills are late and you then go to talk to investors, you are in much worse situation than if you would do it 6 months earlier, when you know that you are going to run out of money in 4 months, but you can now get the investment round in 3 months and be quite safe with it. So you can't be too early, because then you don't fill out the requirements for the investment. But as soon as you do, you should meet the investors, so you should start planning the meetings with the investors a little bit earlier. So trying to arrange them and so on. So it's balance between your product readiness, your market readiness, and your funding needs. Build a roadmap where you have milestones for funding and try to fit them to your product development and market development. Then there's this side which really is invisible to you when you meet an investor. It's like the investor's added value to your company. Business angels, for example, and micro VCs try to think that they have skills, networks, and money to invest to the company. It sort of works because there are advisors who get equity shares who only bring in skills and networks, not money. So I've done it, so I probably have some kind of that kind of value for some companies. But it's always that can you invest the money? For VCs it means that do they have room in their portfolio or do they already have enough? Could they still fit one because one already failed? Like that didn't require follow-up. So it's something their internal controller knows and nobody else does. They don't reveal that to anyone. So it might be worth to try even if the portfolio looks quite full. It still might not be. When it's empty, it's easy. When they launch a new fund, for example, then if you fit the criteria, you're probably getting a deal if you are a fundable startup. So money. Then there's time. Well, if you need to invest your time and effort, which is skills and networks, to the startup. I'm father of 3 kids, for example. I have a day job and 27 companies. I'm pretty hesitant to take in more companies to my portfolio. There just isn't enough hours in the calendar to help everyone. Then it's the competence, like are my skills relevant for this company? Like my background is in ICT, for example, and in platforms. If there's a, let's say, health tech company, I think that, well, there are a lot of health tech professionals out there who are investors. I'm wrong investor for this company. Like my skills don't fit this. And then there's the networks. So, okay, my network is startups and funders. Okay, that usually is useful for every startup, at least the funding part. Then there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of ICT consultants, and so on. Not so relevant, except if you are looking for outsourcing for your project and or maybe some kind of software developers who are in the market for joining your team. So in some cases that kind of network is useful and has proven useful. But if there's already an investor on board who has exactly the same network, in Finland it's pretty common. If you come from the same background, everybody knows everybody in the same field. So it is already there. Your network doesn't add any value. So I've turned down some companies in that based on that. So you already have my network there. I'm half added value. That doesn't make sense for anybody's turn. There's also same kind of limitation, like if there are tax benefits for investors, like in UK there are, it makes sense for them to invest UK companies, but it doesn't make sense for anybody else to invest into a UK company because of the tax benefit UK investors get. They get much better deal than the rest of the world. It doesn't make sense to get the worst deal. So also this kind of monetary things can matter.
Yeah, just a second. Not yet.
Okay, sorry about the sound. Could be that microphone is too far away. I hope you can still hear me. Okay, and there are good questions like, do Finnish startups tend to be too cautious with funding? I would say some do. Like, we have this idea of everybody being sort of equal in Finland, and it also happens with startups, that everybody tries to fit to this tempo R&D tube and like try to do the same things in beginning, and the only difference is like how fast they can do it. Well, some companies like, for example, Supermetrics, didn't take investor money in at all until they reached 7 million revenue. So then that's another extreme, that you don't do investment at all. What is missing is the big early investments. So since we don't have local investors who would invest 10 million to your company right away because it's so promising and great, that sort of limits also the ambitious level. So we are like sort of practical here. So it's much easier to build a small business, like some validation to your product, get small funding, and then get bigger funding later when you are bigger. So that's how it usually works. That works. Trying to be ambitious and trying to raise more sometimes works, but it mostly works with game companies who don't get the money from Finland.
By the way, just a reminder, these questions are from the idea wall, so you can find the link in the email and also in the YouTube description. But also, when you're in the idea wall, please in your browser push refresh so you can see the questions there. Yeah, but the second one, yeah.
Then there was a question like, what would be a typical interest rate present when signing an agreement with VCs? It's completely up to the VC and the industry. There's no standard whatsoever. Usually interest rate doesn't apply because it's capital investment, so there's no growth percentage defined or something. It's just best efforts and like then the company is going to be sold anyway with price or another. So yeah, if you then talk about internal agreements inside VCs, then that's not the topic of this event. Then there's a question, is it possible to found a startup without own personal economic risk? No. Like you are a founder of a company that comes with economic risk. It's sort of like question, can you drive a car with autonomous car? Well, no, because it's autonomous. So it's, yeah, the question is a little bit of the actual range of the, what is a startup? Startup is a business. Business comes with risk. The risk is very limited and mitigated. As I said, it's up to 30K in Finland. The real risk is putting in 4 or 5 years of your life, usually 12, to a business. The time you are not going to get back, you get experience. That's what being a startup entrepreneur is. But yeah, you can't lose much. It's not going to ruin you. You can go to work and pay your 30K back in 2 years. Like it's, if you borrowed it. If you didn't borrow it, if your investor invested it, like, yeah, then the investors are not going to buy you drinks, and that's the thing you lose. So anyway, you get great experience, great CV marking with very limited risk. So it's always a good deal to found a startup. But if you think that 30K is enormous financial risk, you are then wrong person to start a startup. You are going to take much bigger and greater risk in your career. So if you hesitate with 30K, you are in the wrong field.
Refresh, is there more questions? Oh, sorry.
A little bit of technical problem.
The password, my password there.
Okay, so there's a new question also. From general point of view, isn't it a problem to target to exit? Like also mentioned, like when doing so, there won't be any big success stories like Spotify. Well, Spotify has been exited, so it's not a good example. As I said, good exit is IPO, list your company, then you can still own it, and it's still exited. It's both, it's hybrid. So yeah, it also gets much more difficult to get funding later. So, like, only fewer and fewer companies can do 100 million rounds and 200 million rounds and so on. So then also the IPO becomes easier. Targeting to exit is not the problem. Targeting to sell the company to industrial buyer or another fund is a little bit of a problem. So yeah, and that comes also in sort of like territory with the VCs. They need to sell the company anyway. IPO could be too slow for them. Well, I think that was all of the questions right now. So I could get a little bit back on the, like if you're a student and like you can't get 30K. Yes, you can. Like you can walk to a bank, say you are founding a startup, they will find you Finvera guarantee for the loan, and that's it. And yeah, anyway, you are getting yourself a job at the same time. So you get your work experience, your salary, and so on from your Tempo project. So it's also like for students stepping stone to work life. You don't have to spend energy of finding a job when you found a startup. So there's more to the plus side than there's to the risk side anyway when beginning a startup. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Touko. Thank you very much. How is the sound at the moment? We've had some technical problems. Hopefully we're okay now, or do we have to have this? You know, when there's in these events, when there's this. I'm not good at that. That kind of a viittomakieli, as they say in Finnish. So let's hope. But let's hope we can continue, because next up we'll have. Do we have the sounds now so we can continue? Yes. Yeah. Next up we have Ville Kari from Papula Nevinpat, and the topic is helping companies to succeed with IP rights. And Ville has previously worked in various sales and consulting roles in IT startups. He is also a deputy member of the board in a family-owned company, and his main task in his daily work is to help startup and growth companies with IPR issues, together with patent attorneys and trademark lawyers. And Ville is getting mic'd up at the moment, and during Ville's presentation, which is a bit quicker than Touko's, so please. This is about 10 minutes or so, so please ask your questions then in the idea wall. Yeah, but if Ville is ready, we can welcome Ville here. Yes, welcome.
Thank you. So, good day everybody. Yesterday evening I was thinking about how do I introduce myself, and I was trying to find some kind of inspiration to that, how do I introduce myself, and then I found this TEDx webinar about how to introduce myself by Kevin Baylor. And then I remember how my 3 kids were calling me a couple years ago on a Father's Day. Yes, guess what it was? It was Tiger Daddy. I have still tried to figure out what that means, but still on the way. Okay, so my name is Ville and the surname is Kari. It's my privilege to here to speak with other great speakers in this seminar. How many of you have some kind of background from IPR? Great, none of you, yeah. Quite familiar. But a little bit about my background. I have 10 years background from software business, where I have working in small and startup companies, and I have also seen what family business is about. Last 4 years, my mission has been helping startups and growth companies with IPR matters with the help of our patent attorneys and trademark lawyers. Our company, Papula Nevinpat, was founded in 1975, and today we serve hundreds of clients from startups to global Fortune 500 companies in Finland and around the world, including the US and China. Today, I should be talking about sustainable entrepreneurship and how IPR relates to it. At the moment, one of our biggest societal challenges of today is how to move our economy and innovation structure to a more environmentally sustainable one. Notably, the United Nations have defined 17 sustainable goals, including aspects such as responsible consumption, production, climate actions, sustainable cities and communities, as well as industry, innovation, and infrastructure. In this regard, intellectual property rights in particular play a crucial role. They might act either as obstacles or enablers. And sustainable innovation. Well, is the IPR obstacle or enabler? And now we are talking a little bit about green IP. Without new technologies, these risks will not be tackled and these goals will not be reached. Innovation in the field of green technology will therefore be pivotal, and IP rights will play a major role. IP rights can secure the investments in research and developments and are amortized by commercializing technology, but they can also pose obstacles and limitations. It's therefore crucial to understand the influence and the possibilities that green IP can bring to bear. Green IP will affect companies, all industries, sectors, and geographies. The consumer goods industry will have to deal with the requirements to design their products in the way that they can be repaired and recycled. Financial institutions will want to offer and perhaps have to oversee environmentally sustainable investments. Real estate companies will have to ensure high power efficiency and low waste in their buildings. The infrastructure industry as well as the transportation industry will have to find ways to cut the pollution and substitute hazardous materials. And the technology sector will have to provide the basis for the most of the technology, from network infrastructure to big data and AI. Well, what you have to remember regarding IP rights? Well, first of all, you have to understand what are the basics, like in every business. What means trademarks, patent designs, and trade secrets? There are a lot of information in the databases where you can find information regarding your business or idea. It would be stupid not to use it. And as IPR is very costly. But think it as the other way around. How costly it is if you lose your innovation and you're not able to use it on the other hand. At the moment, we are also trying to cooperate with one of the biggest VC funds in Nordics. And that's the way how we can try to understand more about the entrepreneurship and startups and growth companies. and we still have a lot of things to learn, but we're on our way. From my point of view, I see around 200 startups per year. I have noticed that those who will survive, they have a good idea and they have a great team. Invest your time finding a good team members and innovating new ideas, and remember to pivot enough early. Startups are like ice hockey team. Without team you cannot do anything and you will lose the game. And I was looking a little bit details about the patent databases at the moment regarding COVID, and there were around 50 hits. And the first one was Smart COVID mask, IE-based mask with attachment to auto-detect and kill the COVID-19 virus. So it's, how do you say, it's quite active regarding the COVID situation at the moment. And there are big players. At the moment, we have also a lot of cooperation in the startup ecosystem here in Nordics. And for example, we are working together with the University Startup Center in Otaniemi. And then we have also doing work together with European Space Agency Incubator Center. And then we have also sort of startup cooperation with DD Ready, which is a due diligence platform. Here are a few examples about our clients. Kanatu, which you already might know, has been growing quite steadily, and they are developing and manufacturing innovative 3D formable and stretchable films and touch sensors, which can be integrated into plastic, glass, textile, or leather, enabling 3D touch displays, smart switches, and other intuitive user interfaces in automotive and consumer electronics. IQM is the European leader for superconducting quantum computers, and their vision is to make quantum computing available to everyone. And then we have also, for example, Woodley Ltd, which is a Finland-based technology company, a pioneer in wood-based plastics. Their commercial product is a new type of wood cellulose-based carbon-neutral, recyclable, and transparent plastic. We have also done work together with bigger companies who have been developing autonomous technologies, but at the moment we are not able to say the names. And what we do actually with startup and growth companies, of course, in the first phase we try to understand what the business is and what kind of IPR risk the startups might have. So we are in the early phase, we are talking about IP evaluation, searches, and strategic advice. So for example, how to protect your invention already from the beginning during the product development. And we will help you evaluate the extent of your idea and how it can be protected. And also about the IPR strategy. And then of course, a little bit later on, we have to choose that what are the elements that we can do with our clients. And for example, we might file patent applications or trademarks or design rights, and we will advise you with these kind of things. And of course, IP rights are meant to use, so that's why we are also servicing our clients, that we will watch over your rights and interests, defending them against counterfeiting, pirating, or other infringements. Am I too fast?
No.
Yes, so, what do you say? There are no stupid questions, and you can always call us or send us email and ask about, you can ask anything regarding IPR and how to how to possibly make your pitch deck to VCs, and we will help you also with that kind of stuff. And we are nearby Startup Maria, so we have only like 500 meters to our office. And into COVID time, it's not good idea to come to our office, but a little bit later on, you're welcome. And I still have that feeling that in the ecosystem, companies have a lot of questions, but somehow they feel that whenever they are trying to discuss with that, it's not feeling so good. I don't know why, and what is the reason? Are they afraid of costs or what? I don't know. That's quite normal, and I try to be the guy who will help you to start the discussions, and you can always call me. Maybe at this point, do you have any questions? I've heard some on IT industry thinking and saying that normal software can be patented, or it does no difference. What do you think? Case by case. For example, you cannot patent IE, but together with IoT solutions, for example, it's possible. And it's a thing that you should ask from us, not from other entrepreneurs. We know how it's meant to be. Any other questions? How to frame IP rights only to Europe or worldwide? Well, it depends. Normally, if you mean that where you have to use those IP rights, normally they are the biggest markets for your company. For example, some of the companies might want to use their IP rights in Africa, and somebody only use it in Europe. You have to always think about that. Where is the bigger use of that IP and what are the risks in the market? So it's where is the biggest market potential? And of course we can help you to do it worldwide, but you have to also think about the costs. And we are very open-minded to discuss with you about these things. And I don't know, there are of course the legislation in Europe is a little bit, how do you see, it's a little bit better than, for example, in Africa, but we will help you that. We have also cooperation with Africa IPR agencies. I guess there are no more questions.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Ville.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back everyone. We'll continue now with Mari Luukkainen from icebreaker.vc, and she's talking about sustainable growth. Mari is someone you can really call a growth hacker for life. She got first into online marketing when she was 12 years old, and really into building websites at that time. And a happy accident of gaining her first affiliate income and led her into affiliate marketing career for next 10 years. And then before switching that path to consulting and later startups. Her latest adventure was the Nordic home cleaning startup Fresco, which she helped to scale from 700K to 13 million in 2 years. And those learnings she's more than happy to bring into Icebreaker's community. And about Icebreaker, I think Mari will tell a couple of more words what is Icebreaker. But yeah, please welcome Mari Luukkainen remotely. So let's now switch to there.
Thank you all. You can hear me now. Yes? Cool. So I'm here to talk about sustainable growth. And as said in my introduction, I'm very familiar in this topic because when you're 12 and you are creating some kind of, let's say, business of yourself, you don't have really like anything to invest in growth. So basically you have to create something first and then you will invest that to create a little bit something more. And that is basically how my kind of fundamentals of, well, my growth beliefs. And that is something that I currently implement in something that I teach. If you think about like starting a startup and think about where and how to get money from, and what is the scale of your growth and what you should do first. I usually recommend first to think about like that question from the perspective of yourself, basically, how big you want your growth to be. So basically, there is a lot of different stages where it can be. It can be small growth, meaning you are able to pay salaries to yourself and maybe employ another person, buy fancy car or not so fancy car. There is different kind of cars between I don't know, some basic Opel to I don't know, Tesla, Porsche, Ferrari, and then some summer capping, and then there is huge global growth where you employ thousands of people and you are based in different countries and continents and so on. So there's different stages of growth, and you will need to do different stuff and get different investment for different stages. So basically, if your personal growth goals are not that high, I wouldn't aim to venture capital funding or even think about that, because that will mean basically that from, for instance, 20 million fund, if you will get an investment of 100,000 and you will give 10% of your company to that venture capital fund, they will they will wish that they will see an exit of 20 million from your company based in that equity, that 10% that they have gotten from your company, which will mean that you will obviously need to grow your company to be big enough to be worth of like basically over 100 million euros, which will mean usually that you need to go outside of Finland and make it really big, which will mean certain kind of things. You need to work with your own mindset. You need to take responsibility of hundreds of people and a job of hundreds of people, and you have to make basically sacrifices in your life to get to that stage. And I recommend that you will first think about from that perspective, like what is enough in growth for you. And then by taking the first steps, so usually when I start with startups, the starting point is that they have been heavily focused on product development and the tech side of the company. But for instance, on Icebreaker, we have made the investment decisions in situations where there isn't a line of code basically programmed, or there isn't any programmers hired, or there isn't any basically tech. There is only a couple of founders, great idea, and a paper from some very big company promising that we will buy your product when it's ready. And then we can make the investment decision. And that will mean that this team of startup founders, they have basically found some kind of product market fit already. And this is something that many startups forget. They focus a lot on the product development and usually invest something in that before they have even had any interviews with the potential clients. So what I recommend to you to do if you are at really early stage, to even kind of like build some kind of foundation for growth, is that you will create some hypothesis who could be your buyer and what is the value that your product or service is given to them. And then you will talk to a couple of them and get some feedback, like basically, are you ready to buy this or not? Are you actually ready to give us money to have this product? And obviously that doesn't mean anything what they're saying. They can say, yeah, we'll buy it, and then you make it and they will not buy it, because it's so much easier to say yes than actually like, well, give you the money. So having a paper where they are promising that I will seriously buy this product when it's ready, it's more tangible if you go and find funding to get your product development started. But usually, like many of the startups, they are really focusing on data and researches they will find from Google and so on, and forget completely to basically talk to people. And that is something that we are actually a lot focusing on with Icebreaker Growth Hackers and my interns currently in the growth hacking program, that we are doing a lot of interviews. We are talking to people and trying to figure out like what is the core problem that we are solving in the potential client's life. And we can change the client, the buyer personas pretty rapidly and test different kind of hypotheses. But the interviews and discussions are in the core of finding that out. And then when you have the crystallized vision, what you are actually solving there, like what is the value that you are giving, then with that message, you are ready to start a little bit discussion with the potential funding well parties, which can be Business Finland, angels, VCs, depending a little bit what is your personal goal of growth, and then start small. Like basically, even when you get VC funding, and usually when you get VC funding, as I explained, you will have huge growth goals. But what you should do first, like instead of just bombing money on advertising or anything, continue the discussions. And through those discussions, you can find a way to basically build a scalable model of advertising where you can actually start investing the money to, because there will be some investments that will not bring back any instant value, such as recruiting, onboarding people, building the product, building customer support function in your company and such. So you can actually do a lot of stuff before spending a lot of money by basically grinding discussions and building relationships with your potential buyers first before even going to advertising. But when you have a vision like where your potential buyers are at and what you should say to them, then you have the foundation to build a scalable model of advertising and start testing that with small steps and track every piece of that testing, and little by little with testing and data iteration go forward to a scalable model where you can actually like put that money in, because that's the key when you are then getting more money or even your first funding round. If you're able with money to present that if you give us X money, we can make the Y money with this model, and you will get the money. Basically, it's very simple after all. Even it can feel a little bit complex, but basically, faster you are in that position that you are able to show, especially that the customer acquisition function of your company, including advertising costs or the salaries included in that function, and all the tools such as HubSpot and what have you, and then the outsourcing costs if you are, for instance, outsourcing content or something like that. Uh, if all that function is profitable and you can show with data that all the money that we are investing here is getting back to us at some point. It doesn't have to happen instantly. It can be in a few months or something like that. But if you have that model and you are able to show it with data, then you are in a very good position to raise more funding. Basically, that's the basics, in my opinion, of sustainable growth. How to start it. Core of that is speaking with people and iterating your speech and advertising and product based in the value that you are giving for your target audience. But instead of like just throwing a lot of money there, like focus discussions and identifying how you can actually help your target audience and who that is, and you can iterate that many times and during the journey of your product development and startup growth, you can iterate that over and over again when you learn a little bit more about the value that you are giving and to whom, and then where that whom is, where they are at, social media platform, some events, some place, who they are, they do, and the core value that you are giving to them. Any comments? There was some time to have some discussion, I believe. There was a question. So, in your opinion, how much and how well small companies and startups take into account corporate responsibility while planning their growth strategy? Not much, in my opinion. It's not something that the companies are talking about that much in that stage, because in that stage they are especially the early stage companies, they are focusing heavily on, well, basically keeping themselves alive. Obviously, like especially in VC ecosystem, there is it's kind of like social responsibility and environment responsibility teams are really hot currently. So it can be a factor, like positive factor for you when you are raising more money, or if you are raising the first funding round. And at Fresca, like the social responsibility factors in a way of like the meaning the cleaner satisfaction rate. So basically how satisfied the cleaners are working at Fresca and how satisfied the customers are and so on. Basically satisfaction rates of our people. That was one very important factor because it affects obviously on the like the most important business numbers almost directly. So basically, if the cleaner is happy in the company, they will produce better cleaning results for clients, which will make clients more happier, which will have an effect on the client LTV, which has an effect on company growth numbers, so basically revenue and profit. So basically, this is like it's linked together in the end. So in that sense, like even companies, the early stage companies are not like constantly focusing on this kind of stuff. They should, because usually satisfied and happy employees and clients, they will have better retention with the company, which will lead to better business numbers. If if that makes any sense. Thank you for the question. It's really good.
Yeah, we haven't got any new questions, so thank you very much, Mari, for your presentation. And next up, we'll have Jaakko Lindgren, partner at Dottir Attorneys, and the topic is called "The Most Common Legal Skeletons That Startups Looking for Funding Have There in Their Closets," the skeletons, and how to get rid of those skeletons. And Jaakko assists clients in technology law, acting for both technology users and suppliers in the private and public sector. He has had a leading advisory role in multiple technology-driven merger and acquisition transactions, and in venture capital investments in technology companies. Jaakko has also been acting as a member of board of several growth companies and is the former chairman of the Finnish IT Law Association. So please welcome Jaakko Lindgren.
Okay. Hey everyone. My name is Jaakko and today I'm speaking how to get funding in the startup in a nutshell. What we have today in list and topics, first of all, how you create a firm and make some kind of homeworks is the first thing, housekeeping issues, and then finally how you can have opportunity to get the investment. This is the topic of day. This looks like a quite boring document, and it is. It's a DD list, and when you go to the talk with the investors, private equity investors or business angels or something like that, and when they are interested in your firm and want to make investment in your company, they will send this kind of DD list for you quite soon. And then you must have answers and the documents, every those questions. And this is the basic starting point. And you must have answers for those questions. They are legal, they are financing, they are tech. This is boring, but a mandatory step in investment round. We can see that there is a different kind of DD reviews before the investment. They could be administrative, DD, tech, tax, and legal DDs in the firm. And what is not most important, but what is the important thing for the growth firm and startup firm? Of course, you need a very good team, and you need a very good product, and you need skills how you can create a business case. But then you need administration. Very boring topic, but it's a fundamental issue in every single startup firm that one of the founders or someone else in the team focusing in administration and contract management. Because you must show your documents and audit trail to the investors, and without good administration you don't have the capabilities to survive in the DD phase. And of course you can do your homework immediately before investment round, but of course it's difficult. The better solution is day-to-day administration in your firm, someone in your team focusing administration and contract management. Then you don't have problem when someone wanna invest in your firm. I have history in both sides, investor side and startup side. I guess that more than 150 investment rounds in Finland and Nordic Europe. Different kind of investors, like I have working with the best investors in the States like Andrei Horowitz, and also all leading investors in Finland, and then a lot of different kind of startups in the Nordic countries and Germany. And what is some kind of bad news for startups if you don't have good administration skills and documents in your firm? Then some of the investors might think that this firm is not very good opportunity or investment target at all. This is some kind of basic step which you need that investors want to invest in your firm. And also, if you have a lot of problems like missing contracts, missing documents, missing employment agreements, then you don't have so much power in negotiation and you couldn't get the best terms in your term sheets and other documents. And also, you don't maybe couldn't have exit possibility without the good administration. This is quite easy. This is not very difficult, but this is mandatory. First, list of housekeeping issues, corporate issues. Quite often we see that the firm's cap table and numbers in a Finnish trade registration register, PRH, there is some kind of mismatch. Cap table shows something and official numbers are different. You must register your investment rounds, option schemes and other documents in trade registers in Finland. This is not very difficult, it's not very expensive at all, but this is mandatory. This is quite easy also. Please talk with the lawyer or your accounting firm, they can do it. Then, if you have advisors in your firm, like business angels or something else, please create agreements with those guys and write an agreement, because we have seen some disputes between early stage advisors and successful firms. This is quite simple. If you have advisor, you need advisor agreement. Many cases we have some kind of team which start the firm, and then we have new team members which join a little bit late in the team. If you have this kind of case, please reallocate the shares before the investment round. That every single key member in your startup team have enough shares before the investment rounds. Because of the first investment round, it could be very difficult, and there could be some tax problems also. Then, if you have agreements with the different kind of service provider or advisors, how I say it, agreements which include clauses which could affect that someone else own some part of your firm, or they have some equity rights or right to subscribe some shares, those are difficult. You must have the clean and good term sheet before the investment. And also, in the starting phase, please draft and sign shareholders agreement when you start the firm. Because every single firm have some problems with the founders or early stage employees. And if you have a shareholders agreement in the place, those problems are much easier than the situation that you don't have any agreement between founders. And also, please have written documents regarding board and also shareholder resolutions, and those must be also in line with our Company Act in Finland. IPR rights, again, you must have these. You must have trademark in your company name and logo. This is very cheap, but mandatory. It could cost a couple of €1,000 that you have a good trademark protection in Europe. Then, if you are in the business where you have some kind of technology thing like you're developing some product or something like that, then please call immediately you start your business in a patent agency and create your patent plan, how you patent your innovations. Then you must have a clear agreements regarding IPR clauses. The firm or company must own all IPR rights, not employees, not your some partner or something like that. You must own those IPR rights, and you need relevant clauses in relevant agreements. And again, this might sound very easy, but very often we see cases that company have very good product, good team, and then there is some problem with the IPR rights. For example, some university or accelerator own part of those IPR rights. And then we have a problem in the investment round when the investors ask that who owns the IPR rights, and we say it's not clear. And this is the problem. Again, you must have clear agreements with the different kind of stakeholders which are needed in the firm, like freelancers, product and partners, subcontractors, distributors, publisher, etc. Please draft the good written agreements with your partners. Then NDA agreements. Please make NDA agreements also with all potential partners. This might sound very American way or very British way, but again, this is normal, this is typical, and all good investors, they wait that startup firm have an NDA agreement in place with all potential partners. Again, if you have collaboration projects, for example, collaboration with the listed firms or some startup hubs or startup programs or whatsoever, or other firms, make clear that everyone understands in those kind of cooperation projects that who will own the IPR rights. If it's unclear, then you have a problem. Personal issues. This also sounds very stupid and easy, but then still we see a lot of problems in the different firms. You must have written agreement with them, with your all staff members and employment your workers in your firm. Written agreements are needed, but quite often they're missing in the early stage. Then, when you draft employment agreement, you must have their IPR clause, non-solicitation, non-competition clauses. Of course, if you have some not so important employee like a cleaner or something like that, then it's not so relevant. But all key members in your firm must have agreement which include IPR right clause, non-competition clause, non-solicitation clause, and confidentiality clause. this is some kind of basic set which you need in personal agreements. What else? What we have when we look at the firms? All agreements must be in the written form. Of course, everyone knows in the Finnish market that of course in oral form is also possible, but when we create and build successful startup story, then oral agreements are not very good way to make agreements. Then listed firms or big partners or distributors, they always ask exclusivity clause in the different kind of agreements. You must be very, very careful when you give any exclusivity in any partner in Finland or other countries. Because investors, when they look at the firm, they want to invest money in firms which have a growing potential. And if you have exclusivity clauses in agreement, this can stop your growing possibilities. IPR rights, again important. Then when you make agreements, be careful where is the dispute resolution place and governing law clause. For example, if you are in Finland and you are a Finnish firm, then dispute resolution must be in somewhere in the Northern Europe or England, and also governing law must be in Finnish law or some good Swedish law, law of England and Wales. Then, if you operate the business area where you have consumer customers, then you must follow also customer protection legislation. And then privacy issues. This is more and more relevant because we have new regulation in privacy areas, EU legislation and national legislation. And if you're collecting personal data in your firm, you must follow the privacy legislation. Okay, if you don't have any problems with these, then investor send the term sheet for you. It is very simple document, typical 2 pages or 3 pages, and it includes the relevant clauses of the deal. You must read this document, because if you sign this kind of document, then we have a problem in the later phases. And what is typical startup investment round process? Investment hunting is first step. Then if you are successful, term sheet phase, then ERDF phase, due diligence phase, they check your documents, then investment agreement and shareholders agreement. And the easiest and the best way how you can understand what you need in the firm, you must go on seriesc.fi domain, and there you can download the basic legal documents in the investment rounds. And those documents are market leading in Finland. I guess that more than 400 investment rounds are made based on those documents. In founder level, you must understand those basic documents, you must read it and you must understand it. Of course you can use the legal help, but then you must understand basics. After this presentation, please go to this website and download those documents. It's a part of your education. Term sheet, key elements in the deal, DD. This is review. They try to find risks and problems in the firm, and this is important part of the deal. Quite often we find something in the DD phase, but not very often any crucial issues. But sometimes in some firms they have very bad problems which are not fixable problems, but it's depend. Then shareholders agreement and investment agreement, they are the two key documents. If you don't have big problems in the DD phase, then you must sign those documents, and after signing those documents, then your investment hunting is complete and the investor will transfer the money in your bank account. Please go to the seriousseed.fi webpage and download the basic documents. Questions and comments. Here is a question regarding when we're talking about corporate social responsibility and business growth, should we consider a legal aspect as fourth element in addition to the economical, ecological and social responsibility? How I say it, if you wanna build successful startup firm, sustainable issues, they are fundamental. You must follow sustainable issues in the firm. And how I say it is not like a good thing or bad thing. It's a mandatory thing as in every single firm. And every single investors nowadays check that company have a good sustainability plan and company's business fulfill some sustainability criteria. How I say it, this isn't like a good or bad thing, this is mandatory. Every single company must fulfill those basic sustainability issues nowadays. Do startups and small companies think that they cannot afford legal counseling? If so, how to change mindset? How I think? I guess that in Finland we have business culture that engineers and diploma engineers from Otaniemi, they understand everything and they don't need any legal counsel and they do everything. But I guess that the modern startup firms, they understand better and better that in some parts they need legal counsels, and it's one part of the business, how I say it. Any other comments or questions?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much for everyone, all the speakers, and you have been following this discussion. And thank you about from the questions. I think we have learned a lot on what to do when founding a startup or taking care of one that's already running. And yeah, I'd like to thank our team here at Urban 3. We have Anna-Stina Tehkävuori from Metropolia, and then from Forum Virium, Heidi Heinonen, who has been also organizing this, Matias Oikari from Forum Virium, and Arni and Niklas from AE Partners, who've been doing the streaming. And when you want to continue about these topics, you can contact the speakers, or if you want to discuss possibilities in mobility business, you can contact our project Mobility Launchpad people, me and Anna-Stina. I think the slide is here, and our contact details. And we can discuss more if there are possibilities for you in the mobility business, or if you're already there in the mobility business, so how we can help in this project. Like the main things are helping in piloting the new solutions, showcasing your things here in Maria 01, this Urban 3 space, which is an amazing space here at Maria 01, also can be used for these kinds of online events, even though this is better when the times get better and you can really come here to visit this place. And and also we can help you in some kind of many issues also, like contacting you to right people and so on. And already this project has had 4 companies that have get their new customers through this project. So yeah, we're going to the right direction. So yeah, please contact us if you have anything in mind, and also the speakers to contact and continue discussions. Hey, thank you very much.